And welcome to another edition of Krown Countdown U. It's the final week in the Canada West, so that's where we will start. Coming up in this edition, it's the final week of Canada West hockey. We will talk Canada West basketball with the voice of the Calgary Dinos, Lucas Meyer. Clint Uttley will be in from Canada Football Chat to talk about recruiting in football. And we will talk to the coach, Stefan Ptaszek, the head coach of the McMaster Marauders. As we said, let's start with men's hockey. Saskatchewan had first locked up over a week ago, so it was all about jockeying for position in the final week of the regular season. So let's sort the contenders out from the pretenders. Senior night at Mount Royal, but it wasn't pretty for the home side. Alberta with a massive statement win, doubling up on Mount Royal 8-4. Jamie Crooks potted 2 for the G-Bears in the win. The next night, Alberta won its 4th straight, shutting out the Cougars 2-0 at home. The 2 wins propelling the G-Bears into 2nd place in the conference. T-Birds at home to the Bisons. Nick Buonasisi's goal midway through the 3rd period gave UBC a 3-2 lead, and that's how the game wound up. Birds punched their ticket to the postseason with the win. Saturday night, the visitors earned the split with a decisive 5-2 win. Shaq Marasti with a goal, adding 2 helpers for the Herd. Pronghorns and Dinos. Spencer Edwards scored at 3:59 of OT as the Prehistorics take down Lethbridge 5-4 in the first of 2. While the next night, with nothing left to play for, the Horns pulled off a 5-2 win. The Battle of Saskatchewan between the Huskies and Cougars finished with a split. Saski already having the conference wrapped up, while Regina's season is done-ski. The playoff seeding is now set. Green Dogs and the G-Bears earn the bye to the round of 4, while the T-Birds squeak their way into the playoffs through the back door. Could it have been any closer at the top of the Canada West women's hockey standings? Only if everyone was tied, I suppose. 1 point separated first from second, then second from third. Big question, could UBC hang on to their 1-point lead atop the women's ladder? Let's find out from one cold city. UBC doubled up the Bisons in the first one as the T-Birds scored 2 power play goals in the third to earn the W. Saturday night, the Bisons' Erica Reeder scored a power play goal in the third. That's the game winner. Would the Birds slip out of first with the loss? Huskies and Cougars. Cougars won the first game 2-1 in overtime, but dropped the second one 6-2. Cougars and Pandas. Alberta eliminated Mount Royal and also passed UBC for first with back-to-back shutout wins. Calgary looking to keep its playoff hopes alive versus Lethbridge. The Dinos complete the Cinderella run to the playoffs, winning both games in regulation over the Pronghorns, earning a spot in the postseason dance. There's the final big board in women's hockey. Look at those Dinos, down 5 points out of a playoff spot going into the final 2 games of the season. That is a nice run. And so we have the playoff matchups for the women, Alberta and UBC, straight to the semis, while the red-hot Dinos will tangle with the Cougars. With the other quarterfinal, we'll have Saski and Manitoba. Over to the playoff matchups for the fellas. As mentioned earlier, the Huskies and G-Bears earn the bye. Calgary travels to Manitoba in the first quarterfinal, while UBC heads to Cowtown to face the Dinos. Coming your way next, the story from the hardwood. Krown Produce secures produce locally and from around the world for Canadian retailers. Krown Produce is also proud to secure sponsorship of University football on Shaw. Krown Produce, supporting Canadian retailers and Canadian amateur football. Lisa Tomaitis' Saskatchewan Huskies have run roughshod through the conference with a perfect 16-0 record with just 2 weeks to go. Perfection is something that is forged in steel, and the blast furnace would be cranked to 10 for the Huskies as they face two teams over the next 2 weeks with a combined record of 31-2. 16-1 Alberta, 16-0 Saskey. Straight to the final seconds of the fourth we go. Kelsey Troelsrud with a chance to win it for Saskey. In OT, this jumper from Ellie Hendershot gave the Pandas a 3-point lead. Troelsrud nails this one to cut that lead to 1. But that's as close as they would come. Pandas stun the #1 team in the nation, snapping the Huskies' 32 home game winning streak and 29 game regular season conference play win streak with a 1-point overtime win. Game 2, and the Huskies get their mojo back. Laura Daly hit 4 of 7 from the land beyond. Huskies end the Pandas win streak at 11. Cougars and Dinos in a Thursday night thriller. Late fourth cue, and this lay-in for Melissa Kajati puts the Cougars up by 2. Christy Shields then takes it to the rack and ties it up, but misses the freebie, so to overtime we go. In the extra frame, the Dinos outscore Regina 24-12. They take the first game. Friday night, it was the Cougars' turn to get a win. Regina had 3 starters in double figures. They take it by a dozen. Bobcats and Birdies. Brandon took the opener by 8, but Saturday night, UBC earned the split with a much-needed 12-point win. Here's a look at the rest of the results in the Pioneer Division in women's basketball. It's a log jam for that final playoff spot. Victoria's 2 losses vaulted the Vikes out of the 7th and final playoff position going into the final week of the season. Here's the scores from the Explorer Division in women's basketball. 2 of the 3 playoff spots are now taken. Check out Fraser Valley. The Cascades' 4-game winning streak has them ahead of UBCO, who need to right the ship. They are currently stuck in a 5-game slump. 2 long winning streaks came to an end in Saskatoon over the weekend. Alberta versus Saskatchewan. What a titanic struggle in that first game that went to overtime, Lucas.
Unbelievable game, Jim. I got to say, that's maybe your game of the year. Coincidentally enough, Regina and Calgary also went into overtime in the first game of their series. Listen, you could not have been more even in this game. Both had 37 rebounds. Both had 13 free throws. Both made 30 shots total. Alberta had 1 more 3. Nobody fouled out. Alberta just made the stops they had to on that last inbound attempt. And, Alberta had 1 more 3. This was a phenomenal game. All Pandas in double figures. Dallas Emerson, incredible. 22 and 15, 2 blocks. El Hendershot on the other end also played really well with a double-double, 12 and 14. Game 2, a little bit more, I think, better for Saskatchewan, obviously getting the win. But they out-rebounded Alberta 51-29. They held them to 32% shooting. And those boards are so important because the Huskies got 21 second chance points off of them. Emerson, monster game, 25 and 21. Laura Daly, Desiree Hogberg, also in double figures. And on the other side, Jim, Alberta's starters had a really rough night. Jessalyn Fairbanks played nice at 21 points, and the rest of the starters, 9 for 35. That's just not going to get it done. Game 1 in overtime, just a phenomenal game, like you said.
We've looked at the top of the ladder. What about the playoff implications for the rest as we go into this final weekend?
Where to begin? Because 5 through 9 on the Pioneer side is really up in the air, and it'll be determined by head-to-head competition between Winnipeg and UBC, Brandon, Victoria, Trinity Western needing 2 wins over Lethbridge to stay in the hunt. I mean, it's everywhere. And then if you look at the Explorer women, you've got McEwen finishing first, even if TRU and McEwen finished the season at 15 and 5. The Wolfpack, interestingly, they finished second, even if Thompson Rivers and Fraser Valley finished the season at 13 and 7. Calgary, on the home side, the women will finish fourth no matter what happens. And in terms of playoff implications, you need to answer this question. What is more likely? That Saskatchewan finishes with 1 win versus Regina to claim first overall, or that Regina sweeps Saskatchewan at home to finish first overall. Really, Jim, both those things are very, very possible. So, I mean, this last weekend, there's a lot of questions that are going to be answered, and it couldn't be more exciting.
Okay, let's jump back into the time machine on the men's side. Regina, Calgary. Cougars lead by 2 after the first cue, but Thomas Cooper was a man possessed for the Dinos. Whether it was dropping dimes like this or taking it to the hole, Cooper scored a season-high 42 points. My, Calgary is dynamite in the opener. Next night, the Cougars jumped out to another quick lead, going up by 9 early on, but then Cooper took over once again. The MVP candidate put in 30 as the Dinos earn the sweep over Regina. T-Birds on the road in Brandon. Kevin Hansen's squad looking for a third straight win, and he got it. 4 starters scored in double digits. T-Birds take it by 18. Saturday night, the Birds fell behind early, trailing 40-34 at the recess. But UBC outscored the Bobcats 50-28 in the second half, earning the 16-point win. Pivotal 2-gamer between the Horns and Westman. And it was Lethbridge that struck first, hot off the back of Brandon Bryan's game-high 25 points. Pronghorn snap a 2-game losing streak, taking this by 26. Saturday night, and the Westmen get their revenge. The home side had 4 starters score in double figures as Winnipeg gets a much-needed split with the Horns. Bisons and Spartans. Manitoba took the first of 2, drumming TWU by 34 on Friday. They followed that performance up with a 4-point win the next night, extending the Herds' win streak to 7. We cap off the highlights with a couple of big upsets in Abbey. Kevin Parchman led the Cascades with a game-high 33 as UFB snaps the Wolfpack's 6-game winning streak with a 3-point win. The next night, Parchman supplied the scoring, dropping in 20 as the Cascades sweep the Explorer Division leaders. Here's the rest of the story from men's basketball in the Canada West. To the Pioneers standing board we go now. All the playoff spots are taken with just the seeding left to be decided. In the Explorer, still 1 spot up for grabs. 2 wins by McEwen this weekend versus UNBC, and they are officially in. Now let's go back to Lucas. You must be one of the happiest guys in the West, Lucas. The Calgary Dinos, who you call the play-by-play for, they have caught fire, especially in this second half. What's been the secret to their success?
I certainly have been, Jim, as so of the rest of the department. To be honest, though, you've got to go back to the beginning of the season when they had to play Manitoba and UBC. They sweep Winnipeg fairly easily in their first home series. Then they lose that first game in overtime to Manitoba. They come back the next night. They win by 3 in Manitoba. The next weekend, they play at Victoria, lose game 1 by 1 point. Then they come back the next night, win by 4. Then that UBC series. UBC wins by 7 in game 1. The next night, they play probably their most important victory, 101-82, a big 19-point win against obviously a very good T-Birds team. And from that point on, they really have been rolling because they just have a depth and an offensive ability that is unmatched by some of the other opponents that they have been playing.
I guess one of the challenges for UBC is depth, but I guess the other challenge is having the pressure of hosting the CIS Final 8. What sort of effect do you think that has had on Kevin Hansen's crew?
Kevin Hansen, I think, is a great coach, and I think that UBC, here's the thing about UBC. They've got a great starting 5. I mean, they really have a great starting 5, not just in terms of their skill, but the thing that frightens me the most about the T-Birds is their length. You've got Wagner and Morgan inside. You've got Jensen White, who's got those long arms. I mean, they're really athletic. And there were a couple plays when we saw in Calgary, where Jordan Jensen-White, a Calgary native, I mean, you just see his athleticism and his length. To me, I think that they're probably doing a very good job of not looking too much at Final Eight. You have that assurance that you're hosting, which is phenomenal. You know, I mean, we kind of experienced it, Jim and I, back in 2012 when the Dinos hosted, on the women's side, the Dinos hosted the Final Eight. They were the 8th seed, but then they ended up knocking off #1 Regina. So when you have that assurance that you're going to play Final Eight, I actually think it works as a little bit of a stress relief during the playoffs because there isn't as much pressure. For example, Calgary. You know, if Calgary wins the quarterfinal and they make it to Final Four, there's still a chance that they might not make the Canada West final because they still have to win their first Final Four game to secure their spot in the top, in whoever they play against in the Final Four. UBC doesn't have to worry about that. Now, do I think that UBC is going to take their foot off the gas pedal because they're hosting Final Eight and maybe not go for that Canada West championship? Not at all. I think they really want to win that title because you get that momentum, you get the seeding that goes into the Final Eight that you would probably get obviously much better if you were to just be the host and a Canada West finalist. So I think that Kevin Hansen has been a coach for a long time. If there's a guy, there's a few coaches that you want handling that situation. I think that Hansen's one of them.
Lucas, what do you say we do this next week?
I cannot wait. Like I said, I can't wait for the playoffs. And anytime spending time with you, Jim, is one that I very much enjoy.
Lucas Meyer, everyone. Coming up, the national news from CIS football. Stick around.
The CFL and our partners at Football Canada want to make sure we keep growing, promoting, and investing in a safe game. Football Canada now requires all amateur coaches to be safe contact trained by 2017. By creating a standard of safety for all in our football community, we're making an already great game even better. Make sure your youth coach is safe contact trained, because making a safe game means making a better game.
Welcome back, everybody. Time for football, and you can expect an answer out of Regina in 2 weeks regarding the head coaching position that was vacated by Mike Gibson after his 0-8 regular season. Telephone interviews were conducted on Friday with 6 of the semifinalists. In all, there were 27 applicants. Finalists will be interviewed in person late this week. The Brock Badgers, a school without a football team, has a new athletic director, and he is none other than former Guelph Griffin assistant and Canadian Football Hall of Famer Neil Lumsden. Now, while Brock has stated clearly that Lumsden was not hired to develop a football program, it's likely not coincidence that the OFC's Burlington Braves announced in the very same week they were moving to the Niagara region for this season. A successful junior operation could lay the foundation for a team in the OUA. We are getting a clearer picture of where the CFC Top 100 are ranked across the country and where they're beginning to land. To get down to specifics, we caught up with CFC panelists and columnists, the former head coach of the McGill Redmen, Clint Uttley, earlier today. Now joined by Clint Uttley, who the handle will be Canada Football Chat. You're an evaluator and a columnist. You've written some great things on there, and people are missing out if they haven't checked out some of the columns that you've put together. First of all, thanks for joining us, and let's dive in to the CFC 100, because it's become kind of a standard now in terms of figuring out who's available and at what position. How is it put together? And how are the ranking points put together on these individual players who are in the 100?
The way we kind of find the kids and evaluate and identify, we have about 10 or 15 coaches who I know. Most of them are high school coaches or they're local from the community coaches. There's about 3 or 4 university coaches. And then I also use 2 or 3 of my NCAA contacts, they're recruiting coordinators. So basically I pull in about 15 or 20 people, and with Lee, me and him go through each kid's highlight tape individually, and then I'll make a list, and then I'll send it to Lee. He confirms or he'll evaluate, and then we send it off to 3 or 4 like big time contributors, and then they will make the list, and then we cross-reference 5 lists, and then comes out the top 100.
There are a number of different rankings. Can you explain the different rankings and the process behind those?
Basically, take the top 100. They're given scores, so it's in intervals of 10 or 15. So like 1 through 10 gets a certain score at each of those positions, goes all the way through 100, and then basically we'll watch a highlight on a film on a kid. So like I updated it this weekend. If the kid was a high school MVP, he gets X amount of points. If the kid was a conference all-star, X amount of points. If the kid just played high school football and somebody's trying to fill their roster, he'll get 5 points. And then basically it works its all the way up to number 1. Number 1, for example, may be worth 170 points because he'll get his positional score and then he'll get the CFC score. And basically because he's in the top 10, he gets an elevated score. So for example, right now, McGill is the top recruiting class in the country. Okay, I know a little bit about that school. However, the top recruiting class in the country per player right now is UBC. So, I mean, you have to look at both of those scores.
Usually with these top 10s, we get a handful of CIS kids sprinkled into that top 10. Is that a point of concern right now that none of those top 10 have declared to CIS schools, or is this just part of the cycle?
It's just part of the cycle, I think. I think the bigger the top 100 gets, the more interest they're going to get from all over North America. And the reality is, look at a lot of those top 10, they were down at American schools and had awesome seasons, and they put it on film, like they always say in football. Put it on film and it'll get you somewhere. Basically, at this point, there's still a lot of kids left, and the CIS schools can still get a lot of really good kids, especially defensive kids.
Yeah, what is left? You know what's left on the grid right now. Where can a team stock up if they've got a weakness?
The biggest one for me is probably at quarterback, Nathan Rourke. I don't know what he's going to do. He was down at an academy in Alabama, came back.
Where do you see him landing as a good quarterback prospect? Because it really seems that he's focused on finding a path through the United States.
Yep, I think he has his heart set on it. I think he may actually try and find another option down there pre-NCAA. He might be running out of time. I'm not sure why he wasn't offered. His film's pretty impressive. And he was the player of the year in that conference. If I was to say if he would consider a CIS option, not that I want to, but I mean, the kid at Western just retired, we'll call it. If I was Greg Marshall, I'd be like parked in his driveway. I would, because he probably doesn't have a lot of depth, just because the other kid just retired, or with the concussions, so on and so forth. So, I mean, yeah, I would be parked in the kid's driveway.
Well, Clint, thanks very much for this. We'll have you back in a couple of weeks as we go through these top 100s and things start to settle. We really appreciate you coming down to the studio and taking some time out here.
Pleasure.
Few coaches have had more success over the last 5 years in this country than Stefan Ptaszek, the boss with the McMaster Marauders. Mac was in rebuilding mode in 2015, but are they positioned to pop it up into a new gear in 2016? Steph, thanks for joining us. I guess my first question out of the chute is, what sort of advice would you have for Kevin McNeil, kind of up the road, or I guess over to the side from Hamilton over in Guelph, in terms of taking a head coaching job and balancing family with it? I know you've got a young family, and I also know that in terms of being a head coach, you have to be chief cook and bottle washer. There are so many things that you have to do, and it can be an all-consuming job. How do you balance all of that?
That's a good question. That's not an exact science. I think the key is football time and family time. If you try to keep them separate, there isn't enough time. And so you got to integrate them and overlap them. One of the strengths of having this job is watching my kids grow up on this campus and see all the talented, smart, driven student athletes at McMaster, and I love it. And so having my kids on this campus and again, family time and football time overlapping, and then surround yourself with good people. If you have to be the one stirring the pot all the time, you are not going to last in this profession, and you need to surround yourself with people you believe in and that also believe in you, and that's the only way to reach your full potential. And Kev, it's okay if Guelph loses once or twice. That won't be the end of the world.
With Will Finch deciding to retire and not use his 5th year down at Western, you probably have the best quarterback in the OUA right now in Asher Hastings. I got 2 questions about Hastings and your program. First of all, just how far can he take your offense? And the second thing is, do you think his success changes the dynamic for recruiting from the OUA to the CJFL and specifically the BCFC and the PFC? Do you think they take a look at you a little bit differently now, and are you taking a look at them a little bit differently?
I think a little bit of both, for sure. The traction of the success Asher has had everywhere he's been, and demonstrating that we've been able to help nurture his gift and grow it a little bit. I mean, 31 touchdown passes in 8 games is the best anyone's ever done in the CIS. He's had a pretty good couple of years at McMaster. And so I hope they see that traction and see, I didn't create him, but I've certainly helped develop and nurture him. He's a pretty driven kid, and he was going to be successful wherever he went. But that's a pretty special year he's put together. And then for us, all our recruiting, especially out of province, because there's a distance and there's some challenges there, seeing what Asher can do and seeing that the film and the context that it directly applies to us in the OUA makes us way more interested in some of our out-of-province opportunities, whether it's CIS or otherwise, or high school or otherwise. And to be a national competitive program, you got to look at all avenues in this recruiting environment.
Talk to me about what it's like working for a former NBA general manager in Glenn Grunwald. I know as a head coach, you're also part manager. What has he been able to share with you that's made your job easier?
I think one of the key ones is you'd never know that he's been an NBA GM, brought Vince Carter to Canada. You'd never know that he won an NCAA Division I basketball championship with Isaiah Thomas, and he's a humble, hardworking, bright man. You know all those things. He's very shy or slow to tell you about any of them. You got to squeeze them out of him because they're cool stories. And so watching how he carries himself in every room and the diligence towards our program and genuinely caring about our student athletes is phenomenal. I will say this, I'm glad he's got a basketball background, because his Rolodex of basketball coaches and people is unbelievable. That would make me nervous if I was running a basketball program.
Super. Thanks very much. Thanks for taking the time out, Steph. It's always good to catch up with you.
Thanks for the invite. Talk to you soon.
So check out the bottom of your screen. These are the various ways that you can connect with us on the internet machine. For now, put down your computer, put down your phone, and let's get out to the game.